Well, thank you all. It's great to see all of you. I'm Nora McGuire, and I'm here to start the discussions this morning. It's your attendance here means so much in showing that you are supportive of employee wellness and the health of our community. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is based on that. It also incorporates the golden rule that we want to treat others as we would want to be treated. And today's panel discussion will take you through that and go even further as businesses to and how we treat our employees and the community on how we want to be treated. And the payoff for that is a highly engaged, productive, loyal work culture and a business that people want to be associated with. I want to take a moment to thank the teams at Pagula Sports and Entertainment, Zipango, The Biggest Loser Resort, Niagara, and Independent Health for their behind-the-scenes work leading up to this event today. Each have contributed with ideas, insights, technology, and manpower to pull this off. Today, we will gain insights and tangible takeaways from leaders who know a lot about the benefit of investing in employees in the community they live in. I encourage you to ask questions. We have a text service available for you. There's notes on your table and pens and paper for you to gather your thoughts. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our guide for this morning's discussion. Please welcome Brian Duff. Brian is the familiar host of Buffalo Sabres broadcasts on MSG. Brian grew up in Whitby, Ontario, where he became a Sabres fan in the heart of Maple Leafs territory. Brian has had a long career broadcasting in the NHL on both TV and radio, including covering the NHL Draft, All-Star Game, and Stanley Cup Finals. Brian, turn this over to you.
Thank you, Nora. Good morning, everyone. What a weekend. Saturday morning, we were at the arena, Kim, and just gearing up for a celebratory day with captains coming back and the home opener, and it just couldn't have gone any better. And then it rolled into yesterday, and it got even better from a football standpoint, so it is great to see everybody with smiling faces this morning for many reasons, not the least of which is that we're here to be able to enjoy each other's company. And we'll have some long discussions, I'm sure, with certain topics, but right off the bat, I think it's important to try to narrow it down to, Kim, we'll start with you. Maybe one word, a philosophy, a key principle when it comes, from your standpoint on the importance of employee and community engagement.
One word? Like, we're going to be here for a couple of hours. I'm going to say, the word that really comes to mind for me is servitude. In my former life, I was a waitress, and I actually enjoyed serving customers and waiting on them. And so for me, just being able to serve our community, serve our employees, just the rewards that I've gotten back, even just personally, I think that really embodies like the importance, the one word, yeah.
Very good. Dr. Kropp, Mike, how about for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that struck me when I became CEO was the importance of my role in shaping the culture. And culture for us is really everything. And it's probably as important, if not more important, than strategy. And we're fortunate that we're in a business where it's really mission-driven. And so tying the culture around the mission that we're here to serve the community is really, I think, the glue that holds us together.
Jason, how's it different maybe for you, and what's that belief that you have in all of this?
Actually, I would echo both. I think impact is one of our values, impactful, and it's really important to in a startup company like ours, align mission to the business model so it doesn't ring hollow. A lot of people can put a mission statement on a wall, but actually having that result in things that are tangible, like the number of people we help either reverse their diabetes or change their life in tangible ways, rings true. But it's also then about the way they live their own life. And if you start a mission-driven company, and then people go home to their own families and they're bickering about how they work too much, or they're getting less healthy because of the job they're in, that's not good either. And we try really hard on that. And I also think it's great that the Bills have done a lot better of that lately too.
Kim, why is it important to you, as you've taken on this role, and it is a large role within Pagula Sports and Entertainment and across 2 major sports franchises, why is it important to you to, see the value of investing in these community-type efforts through your employees?
Well, I think because all our employees are part of this community, so when we invest in our employees, I know we're investing in the community. So we have had many employees that have been born and raised and lived here in Buffalo their whole life, and then we've had others that have come from out of town and really just enjoyed what Buffalo has offered them in the community. So, I think it's important. I don't think it's a either or. I think you kind of get this benefit when you do one good thing that it trickles down into your whole surroundings. So I think it's, like I said, it's always important to place the emphasis on our employee engagement because it really affects our whole community.
Jason, you've got a young family. How have you found the balance in all of this and being a leader within that family dynamic?
I haven't. I have 3 awesome little boys who are 5, 3, and 1, Davis, Logan, and Bobby. And my wife is also an entrepreneur. She started a nonprofit for health education that's around the country called Pure Health Exchange when she was a freshman in college. She's been doing it for 20 years, so it's not really a startup anymore. But we both live very full work lives. But I think it's being really intentional. Like so much in your work life, your family life, and the combination of the two, you have to plan it out. And you have to think about it and then make conscious trade-offs. And the other thing is how do you set your defaults, especially your environment, which is a theme in our work, especially with food. How do you reset the defaults? So in our family, we chose to live in the Presidio, in the old military base that's now open to the public. We can't buy a house there, but we rent. It's kind of like donating our rent to the national park. But I grew up in South Creek Road in Hamburg, and I miss the country. And so while we live in a busy work environment of the city and fast-paced startup life, we come home every day, have dinner with the kids, and then run around and play outside. So it's little things that I think families can choose, and frankly, employers can help families choose. And that's about how you take time off for maternity leave. That we have very generous policies in California, but at our startup too, for maternity and paternity leave and things like that, so that you can find balance. And what the result of that is for work is being people who are really present, and then I can be more present at work because we make those default decisions.
Mike, what qualities do you look for, representing Independent Health and their recruitment of employees? What qualities are you looking for in candidates as it relates to culture?
We look for people who really understand service and understand that, we exist of and for the community. And because we're in this privileged space in terms of helping people with their health, whenever we interact with folks, there's something really important going on. And so people who have an understanding and an empathy, and really, there's a phrase that I like to come back to, subservience to purpose, that they get it. They understand why we're here. They understand that we're dealing with people in really challenging times and the need to be empathetic and the need to be willing to go that extra mile to help them out is something that's really important in all of our associates.
Feel free, all of you guys, to piggyback off of each other's answers here. Kim, what have you done? Why is it important, and what have you learned along the way in all of this, initial discussion that we're at these topics in this initial discussion here?
Well, I've learned that one size does not fit all. So as I've worked on different companies, different entities across one big platform, it seems like they all are unique and different in so many different ways. Whether it's the hospitality, entertainment, the sports, and the people are also all very different. And I know that is one of the kind of popular things to talk about is the diversity and inclusion area, but it's so true. And so for me to try to understanding what the needs are individually of each company, and then trying to understand what the needs are of our employees, as we've got some that are very young, entry level, to people that just won't leave. So that's not you, Brian, don't worry. So I think those are some of the challenges that I've seen in that area, and what we think health and wellness is for our employees is also maybe not what what is in interest to all of our employees at once. And so trying to find the ways that we can best engage with them in the right way, and to make sure that it's the right initiative for them and it's serving a purpose for them individually, while still trying to maintain a much bigger global,
Do you want me to tell? Do you want me to tell Razor the bad news before the broadcast tonight? Piggybacking off of that, I mean, I'm sure you can relate to exactly what Kim's saying.
Yeah, we have similarly a very diverse workforce, and a lot of our work isn't done directly. We're a health plan, we provide coverage, but we really see most of our work actuated through our provider partners. And there's a huge amount of variability in our provider partners, and so we need to be able to meet people where they are. And yet, when Jason mentioned intentionality, we have a mission, we have a purpose, and being able to sort of frame things in languages that are meeting the folks where they are is really key. So, one of the things that I like our folks to remember all the time is Stephen Covey's fifth habit: seek first to understand and then be understood. And that active listening is really an important part of who we are in working with our members and working with our provider partners. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, this is a great day to have an operation. We need to understand what's going on behind a request that comes in and make sure that people are getting exactly what they need when the calls and the requests come in.
I'll argue that based on superstition of sports fans, after wins on Saturday and Sunday, there might be people waking up Monday saying, we're in a winning mode, I'm going to get the surgery done as soon as possible. I think it's easy for people to understand the scope of the organizations with which Mike and Kim are overseeing here. Jason, from your standpoint, I mean, how are you in line with a lot of what's being said here? I mean, how big is your company, and how diverse and everything else we were just touching on? How does that impact you, and thus, how do you try to impact your workforce?
Yeah, I think it's at two levels. So one, on the startup side, when you have 100 people, it's a lot different than when you have 1,000. And that is even a lot different than when we serve companies like Google with 100,000 people, Disney with hundreds of thousands, United Health Group with 350,000 people, and then working with health plans like Independent Health or United that has millions and millions of people. So I think perspective is really important, because each culture is different, like lots of different size employers here. At a startup, you can know everybody's name still, although you'd be surprised at like how fast things get out of control when you get to 100 people, down from when you start with 2. And I think that the beauty of small is that you can move really fast, because decision making is about honest conversation, listening. All the same principles apply, and they apply really quickly as you get to 100. But what's really interesting, because we have this vantage point of seeing, again, companies ranging from everything from Google and Disney to Cummins, a manufacturing plant, or large health plans. People work at call centers and all different walks of life. And the common themes that we see between our organization and those is, first of all, respect, culture of respect, that I value what you do and the role you have in the company. And you take the time to also try to explain what you do and how you're trying to do it well and why you think it's important and how the two relate with each other. So those are some common principles that I think apply.
Sounds a little like what's going on at PSE, and you talk about that, just how quickly it's grown and trying to keep up with that thought process of, making sure that the lines of communication are. So how have you evolved in that role to try to bring everybody a little closer together, which is not easy because people are doing such vastly different things?
Yes, it is. When you grow really fast, sometimes you miss some things. And so actually, how I've dealt with is I've put the brakes on. So in terms of just saying, listen, we've grown fast. We've added so many people. Some people I don't know. Similar to you, Terry and I. Well, Terry first, but was an entrepreneur and had his own business, and so he was a company of two, and then it grew and grew, and then we've gone on. That was in his prior life, but so I miss not knowing everybody's names, as you probably remember, Brian. Even just when we just had the Sabres, it was a little bit easier to know people and get to see them in their different roles. But as we grew and grew, it was just it took a very conscious effort to say, okay, you know what, I don't know if we're doing everything right. We've grown, growth is great, but it's not always the right thing or the best thing. And so for me, I just had to take a pause. And I think some of the, at least for the last probably couple of years for me, it's about taking away some of the layers that have that I stood on, and really getting my hands dirty, if you want to call it that, and engaging and really understanding and taking the time and effort. But in order to do that, it's hard. It's hard to stop that treadmill. It's going and going and going. But I felt like that's what was best for the organization as a whole, is to just kind of put a stop on it in terms of, in a positive way, though, to see where we're at and how we can do things better.
How much has independent health grown over time, and that you've overseen and then adjusted accordingly?
Yeah, we at this point we've got 1,500 total associates in the family of companies that we have. So we have the mothership, Independent Health, and we've got about 1,100 folks there, and 400 in our 5 different affiliates, which 4 of them are based in Buffalo, one's based in Rochester. So we've grown substantially. In terms of the number of people, we've grown substantially in terms of the different products that we offer. So the complexity is really layered in there. But we try to make an effort to get to know people and to walk around and to understand, what's going on at all levels of the company. And I think we try to be very deliberate about making sure that we foster as many interactions as possible, so that people who are on the phones get to know folks who are in the back office, et cetera. And we really have a true understanding of the work that we do from one end to the other, so that people are respectful of the different roles in the organization, as well as the different individuals there. But it really requires us to be very deliberate about that. And we're always learning. We can always do better on that. And we love to get more ideas that surface from the front lines too. So putting systems in place to really have those ideas bubble up is where I get a lot of energy and excitement to see somebody who in their daily job just saw that they could do something better, but it extended beyond their direct line of work, and it impacted other parts of the company. To be able to grab something like that and help them run with it to change the organization, their sense of ownership and buying in is huge after that.
Are electronic devices helpful in all of this, hurtful as far as, the open lines of communication and people understanding what other people are doing and other, in different departments within a company?
You know, again, with that, you got to be very deliberate, because if you have just a very clear message that you just need to broadcast, electronic communication is great. But email can be the bane of everybody's existence when you should have had a direct face-to-face conversation about an issue. Because, you know, much of the time, because of the complexity of the healthcare industry, we have folks who touch a problem from different perspectives. And until you can get them together and have a conversation about what they're seeing, you might be looking at the wrong problem. And so when you blast an email out with your perspective that misses somebody else's really important perspective, it often creates a lot of unnecessary work where the face-to-face conversation would have been a much more effective way to go.
You agree?
Well, I work at a tech company, so there's a lot of people that are behind their laptops and texting with their thumbs at all times, heads down.
So how do you get their attention? Since they're always like that. I mean...
Well, I mean, there's a lot of jokes about millennials. I'm a Generation X kid, so they're all true about the millennials, especially in San Francisco. Just kidding, if you're a millennial. In earnest, it is a different set of cultures, and it comes back to that respect thing. You have to kind of understand, well, what did people get exposed to when they were growing up? What are they used to? And then why are people doing it that way? But Mike is right that technology can facilitate a lot of things. We just switched from email to Slack a couple of years ago, if anybody's ever heard of Slack. A friend of mine started that company, and it's taken off. And it's a simple concept. It's like these threads in real-time communication that you post instead of email, because email creates these crazy threads, and then you end up spending like 3 hours a day just responding to email, and it's a waste of time. Slack simplifies that, but there's still no substitute for complex problems to get together. And people talk a little bit about what Jeff Bezos does at Amazon. He actually has his team build a document, and then you come into the document, and then you have a meeting that's an hour. They take the first 20 minutes just to read the document. And these have to be, it's like homework, like back in school. Mm-hmm. And people read and they comment on the document in real time. They should use Google Docs because it works better than what they use, but we use the combination of Google Docs and what they do. And then after everybody reads, then they actually debate the comments that people took time to write down. Because again, back to the point about respect, people learn and communicate in different ways. So if you have a bunch of engineers like we do that are more introverted, but incredibly thoughtful, amazing contributors to the conversation, you want to surface their thoughts, not just the loudest voices. And going to medical school, like when you do rounds, the loudest voices often get the best grades the early days, but it's not always that's the case.
We have lots of questions coming in via the text platform, so we'll definitely address those as they fit into the conversation, and thank you, keep them coming. What are the most important qualities, this is for all of you, that you bring to the table as a leader?
Start with me. I got to talk about myself. I think that, I like to think that maybe my best quality is being able to relate to others. Very much, I've been a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a granddaughter. I've worked, as I told you, as a waitress. So I've worked for tips, and now actually I don't get paid now, but I did have jobs where I did get paid and work long hours. So I feel like as we talk about the importance of face-to-face engagement and talking with your staff, is that I can always find something that I can connect with them on, whether it's having kids or issues at home or schoolwork or education, health and wellness, any of those areas. So I feel like I'm hoping that's one of my better traits that really gets me engaged with our staff and others that I come across with.
I feel really lucky that I started out as a physician for the position that I'm in, because the business that we're in, it's all at the interface between the patient and the provider. And so having that appreciation for what happens at that interface is really, really important. And so back to the point about intention, we're all about making sure that that interaction works. And health plans typically have a reputation of getting in the way, saying no. and making it difficult for members to get what they need, for doctors to be able to do what they think they need. And we've really, I think, turned that upside down to try and make sure that we're enabling the right interactions at that interface. And so having that appreciation for what happens there is really key. And then having that very specific design to make sure that we're about making it work is also key. But now, one of the things that I think is important, in addition to being able to connect to the team, is being able to have a vision and understand what the next 5 and 10 years are going to look like. And I think we've been fortunate to be able to step out ahead of some things on our own, in partnership with our physician providers, and in partnership with companies like Jason that are bringing the future forward. Because with all due respect to my physician colleagues in terms of their importance in healthcare, what we're beginning to realize as a nation is that so much of what we're experiencing in terms of ill health gets back to individuals and their own personal choices. And so we've got to go past our relationship with our physicians into the community to help people make better choices about what they do, what they're eating, whether they're exercising, how they're handling stress, and how they're just handling their day-to-day lives, because those things have such a huge impact on their personal health and then the general health of the community. So I think that in a role like mine, the ability to be able to sort of connect to people and respect them and appreciate them, but at the same time, the ability to be able to look out and see what's coming and to balance the investments in today and tomorrow is really key.
Jason, did you have a good idea of what qualities you had as a leader when you were starting this thing up? And then, it's totally different, right? When it's small and few employees, and then it just mushrooms, and you are then a leader of far more people.
Yeah, I'll come back to that point because I think you hear about startups like Facebook and things like that, and you watch the evolution of different, maybe that's a bad one, but you watch the evolution of startups, and you do have to change a lot as the organization grows. But actually bring it back to the kind of concept of the new golden rule. Like, we're all here because we're talking about how shareholder value is not all that matters. I think leadership is reflected in whatever organization or things you work on. And if your organization builds a good culture, is sustainable financially, leaves the planet a little bit more sustainable, and actually has impact, organizations are built to have a mission to do something, then you're probably a good leader if all those things are coming true, and you have good ethics and integrity behind what you've done. So I really appreciate, just as a sign of respect and appreciation that I'm even on this panel with you guys. Growing up in Buffalo, my dad having cancer lately, and then being in remission now, I stopped talking about the Bills much after 4 Super Bowl losses, and I wasn't really thrilled with the team for a while. And then I got really excited about them again when Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane were hired. And I started reading more about the team again and what you guys were building. And the reason I really like the Bills again is, yeah, I love football and things like that, but I'm a nerdy kid who didn't, I played football and stuff, but I sucked. And I love the team again now because it's a conversation with my dad, but because of the really tangible things that I know you're doing, that I read about, we've never talked about it, but I know you're doing, that then are reflected in the choice to hire somebody like Brandon, somebody like Sean, and then how that's relating to the players and the way the players, if you guys have watched up some of the sessions where the players are all communicating, they really like each other now. That takes work. That takes a lot of work. And then at Independent Health, we have the chance to work with health plans around the country, like United Health Group, and they're all amazing in what they've done. But we really like at Sapongo working with the community health plans because they go out of their way with their own people and with the providers, the doctors. Health plans often are at odds with the doctors, but places like Independent Health work really hard. So when I think about to be partnered with them, when I think about leadership, I think about how do I emulate people that I think are doing good works and have actually done something really hard and transform something that maybe wasn't as impactful to be more. And the journey we're on now with Sapongo is Yeah, we've had to grow from 2 to 100, but we've had to figure out how to serve over 200 employers and 5 of the 7 largest health plans, and half the time I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think the last comment that I make is that it's important to be able to identify people that you think are doing some really good things so that you can go find mentors and go talk to them or read about what other people are doing and constantly try to reinvent yourself, and then listen to the complaints from your people and then try to address those by learning from others.